Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. Today is the start of a very special series of Alter Your Health episodes. This is a live edition. We are recording a podcast live, and this is Dr. Susanna Alter, new doctor, and my partner in life, my wife.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Yeah, and welcome to this show. In this episode, we're going to tell you all about the foundation for health, like the building blocks to health, how to create the most resilient foundation to support your health and well-being and kind of support you in achieving all of the health goals that you would ever dream of. So
if you can hear us, give us a little wave and a thumbs up. We see lots of you on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in.
We're on the Instagram and the Facebook.
And let us know where you're tuning in from.
Yeah.
We'd love to see where everyone is from.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up, a heart, or a wave, or whatever. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And how amazing to start this. I don't know. Suzanne and I were just sitting here kind of thinking about what we were going to say and how we were going to do this, and it's just so fresh and new for us, and it feels great to be stepping into this. So thanks for being with us. And we want to just dive right into the foundation of health and what that means. So Susanna, what does the foundation of health mean to you?
Well, when I think of the foundation of health, I picture actually in my head the therapeutic hierarchy, and it looks like a triangle. It looks like almost like the nutritional pyramid, if you know what that looks like. Yeah.
So it's called the therapeutic hierarchy, or the hierarchy of healing, or the therapeutic order in naturopathic medicine, and it's meant to really support the application of how healing happens. So Susanna and I, we really love that model. That is, it just makes a lot of sense, and it keeps things really simple. So we wanted to dive into what I would say is the first level of the therapeutic order, the basement, the infrastructure on which everything is built.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's really the most important layer, in my opinion, because if you don't have a solid foundation, then anything else above that is, it's not going to be as strong. It's
Yeah. I like to say anything on top of a foundation that isn't strong is kind of a Band-Aid. Not that there's anything wrong with putting Band-Aids on, but without that really resilient foundation, some of the other therapies don't last. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So the good news about the foundation of the therapeutic order is that all of these things are totally free to you for the most part. It's free medicine. It's also part of your day-to-day life. It's things that you don't have to necessarily go out of your way to explore and to achieve. It's just a matter of kind of shifting daily practices to integrate more and more of these nutritive lifestyle kind of tips and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're living in a very sustainable way, and a way that promotes radiant health.
Yes, of course. That's the goal. And so I'm curious, do you have any favorite lifestyle practices that you know that you use in your daily life that supports your health and well-being, whether it's a healthy snack or a healthy practice that whenever you're engaging with, you just feel like you're really nourishing yourself. So is there anything that you guys out there particularly enjoy for a self-nourishing practice? Curious. But we're going to dive into some of the things kind of that we enjoy and that we advocate in clients and patients. So
All right.
where do you like to start, Susanna?
To be honest, we don't have enough time to talk about all of it today. We like to group them into categories that we call the determinants of health. And those are air, water, food, thoughts, and relationships.
Yeah.
And because thoughts and relationships are a huge topic, we're going to wait until next week to dive into those.
Yeah.
And movement. I forgot movement.
And movement is kind of something that, I always throw it in there, but honestly, I believe that there are people with limited physical activity who are still able to achieve, radiant health. So we're going to talk about food, air, water for the most part, which
food, air, water.
It seems like totally, elementary, rudimentary, kind of so silly and basic to like, why focus like time on diving into air and water and food? Like these are things that we're just doing. And it's true, we are. But the fact of the matter, as we said, we can bring a higher level of mindfulness to these activities so that any of these rudimentary day-to-day practices that we're doing, regardless, become really a nutritive and healing experience. So that's kind of the goal as I see it.
Exactly.
So let's dive right into where do you want to start?
As I take a deep breath, how about we talk about air?
Okay. So, yeah.
Well, again, without kind of stating the obvious, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of if you're living in a city or an urban area, the air you breathe outside is, it contains a lot of pollutants versus the air that you find in a forest, for example. However, one thing that I didn't realize until most recently is that it's actually best to still go outside every day to breathe in some fresh air. It's better air quality than the air inside of your house or your apartment. So, and whenever you can, opening up a window, opening up the door to get some circulation in is going to be helpful to just keep the air quality in your living environment more fresh and more vital.
Totally. That's a really good point. Obviously there are some circumstances where that might not be true. If there's like a volcano in your backyard where, we were just or a forest fire, or, for whatever reason, the pollution is really bad. But for the most part, indoor air pollution is worse due to a number of reasons that maybe we don't have a lot of time to dive into. And for that reason, also, an air purifier indoors is usually a really wise thing to have running all the time, just to kind of filter out all of these particulates that get, that make their way into our environment so that, we're cleaning the purest air that we have access to. And I know that whenever I am in a forest that has like, evergreen trees and just like green, like the more deciduous, like the more green I'm exposed to when I'm breathing, the better I feel. So I don't know about you guys, like what your favorite environment is to take a really nice cleansing deep breath, but I like to put myself in the greenest of environments whenever possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I strive for. And yeah, I think just simply going outside once a day just for a few grounding breaths can be a really great practice. Mm-hmm. Maybe even setting an alarm on the phone like once an hour if you work inside. We all have access to the outdoors nowadays. No excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so water?
Well,
or
one
any more?
Because did you know, I think this is so interesting, that actually taking deep breaths when you're in a forested environment it's not only great for your lungs and for your nervous system, but it's also good for your gut health.
Yes.
Because you're actually inhaling beneficial microbes that are populating your gut.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, but it totally makes sense. Our bodies, as many of you know, there's like we are outnumbered maybe tenfold by bacteria inside and on our skin. So the same is true in our in our outer environment, in nature, we are just exposed to so many bacteria. It might like creep people out if you're a severe germaphobe, but it shouldn't because these bacteria are actually our friends and we co-inhabit this universe with them. So breathing them in is actually a great thing to do, like Susanna said, for gut health. um yeah, ready for water?
Water.
Okay. Well, I think it goes without saying that water composes about 70% of our body by mass. We are water. And I find it interesting that also the Earth, the planet Earth, the rock of the planet Earth is also about 70% water. Like the surface area at least is covered about 70% water. And we are really fluid, dynamic in that way, along with the earth on which we live, So it kind of goes without saying that water is a very important feature when it comes to who we are and how we express health. Yeah.
Certainly.
So, we get water from drinking it, of course, and we and we have to be drinking water. It's like, yeah. But sometimes our water sources in our world today are a little bit tainted.
Yes.
Yes, for what, yeah. It's just important to know that, the facts, that a lot of the city water supplies have fluoride, chlorine, all sorts of, heavy metal particulates. And that's not to mention as well it's kind of scary, but like the pharmaceutical medications that make their way into the water supply and all these other synthetic toxicants that get into the groundwater. And, we don't necessarily want those in our body to any large degree. So,
the water purification facilities, they do their best, and they certainly get out all the pathogenic microbes and everything, but the little chemical structures of the pharmaceuticals don't get taken out. And some of those pharmaceuticals have really long half-lives, so that means that they just stick around in the water system for a while, and they could be affecting your health.
Yeah, totally.
So what we like to do, and what I need to do today, is go fill up. We have big 5-gallon jugs that we fill up with purified water from the grocery store.
We always advocate that you get your hands on whatever is the best source of water available to you in any moment, in any scenario. And the top of the list of water sources is always natural spring water, from the earth. Just energetically, it's the most pure, as well as it's rich in healthy minerals and that sort of thing. But, not all of us have access to such wonderful spring water, unfortunately. But just the water purifier at the grocery store or that sort of thing is good enough to get a pure source of water. Additionally, I wanted to talk about another aspect of hydration and water, which kind of segues into the final thing that we're going to talk about today, which is food. But food is also a really important way to maintain hydration, getting water through food. And not many people think about hydrating through eating, but each meal is either hydrating or dehydrating. And the reason why that is because, well, the foods themselves contain water. If you think of something like a celery stick, that contains a lot of water, and a lot of people say, oh, well, it's just water. But it's actually not just water. It's water, yes, along with fiber, but the water in a celery stick or any other piece of, any other vegetable or piece of fruit is different than the water that you get out of the tap or from a spring, because it is so rich and full of minerals and electrolytes that are actually in a very, very amazing balance that is what the body actually prefers you know, so
It's the most purified form of water, as it's gone through the roots of the plant, and plants are they're magical creatures. They are very life promoting. So
they are our friends. They are our friends of health. So yeah, getting water through plants, I think, is totally underrated. And on the other side of things, like, you know, fresh fruits and vegetables we think of as being really hydrating. But things like, you know, high protein, high fat kind of animal products or other sources of like really protein or fat dense nutrition, it's not as rich in water, like flat out, it's not as rich in water. Additionally, the metabolic processes and the digestive processes that go into breaking down those proteins and fat require lots of water. You know, if you think about, I'm just going to use this example, but if you think about like chewing on a steak, and a steak is really like dense, and we need a lot of gastric juices, we need a lot of pancreatic enzymes, a lot of other digestive enzymes, and all of these are kind of fluids that get excreted by our body to help promote the digestion of these food sources. So doing our best to, you know, not like saying don't ever have a piece of meat, but know that eating a piece of meat is a little bit dehydrating to the body. And so offsetting that with the proper hydration, the proper vegetables and fruits and glass of water, of course. So yeah. Any other points that you have on hydration, Dr. Susanna?
I think that's good. Yeah.
Cool.
I think we're ready to move on to food.
All right. I think food is our favorite thing to talk about.
I know.
But it's interesting because if any of you have been tuning into the podcast, the regular episodes, I actually haven't had that many food conversations yet. So I feel like there's a lot to say about food, of course, and we're not gonna cover it here. Our intention is for these episodes to just be like 20 to 25 minutes, so we're actually just
reaching the end here.
But like we said, this is just the beginning. But where do you want to start on food?
Well, I guess the quote that comes to mind for me is Michael Pollan's from his book Food Rules, to just eat food, mostly plants, and not too much. And It can be that easy.
Yeah.
But we like to make it complicated.
Totally.
Humans like to make it complicated.
Yeah. Anyone that's tuning in is probably to some extent familiar with the crazy food wars of today. I mean, just like everyone's claiming that they have discovered the ideal diet for humans, and there's so much conflicting and confusing information out there, which is really one of our intentions as well, is to just kind of sort through it and take what's really important and not get overwhelmingly bogged down by the details that aren't really that important to most of us. So yeah, eating plants or eating food, not too much, and mostly plants, is a great place to start.
And I think also, we can expand on what types of food a little bit more. We certainly will in some future episodes. But what's also important to consider is how you're eating. And what we mean by that is, what is your relationship with eating, and how mindful are you when you're eating?
Yeah. Yeah. So I really love to encourage people to at least say some sort of prayer. Maybe it's just thank you before every meal, or maybe it's something more heartfelt and deep and expansive. But I think talking to food and even if you're, it's always great to share a meal with someone, a loved one or friend or whatever. But even if you're eating a meal by yourself, I like to, practice as if I'm eating with, a group of people, or even God, or even, even like a greater source, and so I think saying a little heartfelt prayer is a good way to strengthen that relationship with the food that we're eating, and it kind of creates a healing experience with any food, you know. I think even a piece of junk food can some extent get transformed into not as junky by just offering some heartfelt gratitude at the least. So
yeah, and I really like that, because what also comes with being in a state of gratitude is that you're upregulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system. So that helps us get all of our digestive juices and enzymes flowing where they need to go, and it really supports optimal digestion of the food, and you really get the most bang for bang for the bite.
Bang for the bite.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really what it comes down to, because obviously, putting food in your mouth is important, but how that food gets broken down, how it gets incorporated into your body, into the cells of your body. We say all the time that you are what you eat, but really what it comes down to is you are what you digest and absorb, So we want to be eating all of the nourishing things, but we also want to be digesting and absorbing. So maintaining that really health promoting relationship with food, a parasympathetic state while eating, and
some other things to support that parasympathetic state are to
chewing.
Chew your food thoroughly. And also turn off the TV, set down your book or whatever device you have, and just focus on the food.
Yeah.
Smell the food, taste the food. And I learned this tip from you, Dr. Benjamin, to after you take a bite, simply set down your fork on the table.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, I catch myself every now and then just like shoveling bite after bite into my face, and all of a sudden I'm like, where did all that food go?
Susanna gets hungry. What she's trying to say is sometimes Susanna gets hungry.
Yeah.
Which is okay. We got to feed ourselves, and doing so mindfully can really help. I know we didn't really dive into the details of nutrition in this conversation today, but I know I look forward to kind of getting into that. And but like we said, this is kind of just the foundation, the starting place. These kind of practices can be woven into everything, regardless of what you're eating, where you're living, how you're breathing, and the water that you're drinking. Just bring some more mindfulness to how the day-to-day, moment-to-moment life is going. Because I always like to think that our health, our expression of health in any given moment is kind of the sum total of how we are living day to day. And, some people, of course, catch a bug or something. They get bogged down and stressed out, and their immune system drops, and they get these acute kind of conditions, which can be addressed, of course. But when we're talking about health, for the most part, we're talking about kind of the long-term sustainable absence of chronic disease, abundance of vitality and energy, and these sort of things. So without further ado, I think we'll call it quits on this first Alter Your Health Live, which is, of course, available on the podcast app, and probably wherever you listen to podcasts. And also give a subscribe to the YouTube channel, which there's a link over to do that. And of course, there is so much information on the website, including a little ebook that Suzanne and I put together with our favorite recipes that I would say like 80% of the food that we eat comes from those simple recipes, So any other last words, Dr. Susanna?
Just thanks for tuning in. And again, thanks for inviting me to the show.
Well, yeah, I think I said it earlier, but this is a regular thing, This will be a regular ongoing thing, and this is just the foundation.
Thursday.
And every Thursday, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock Pacific. And if you can't join live, obviously it will be available on all the other platforms, like we said. Next week, what are we going to talk about?
What are we talking about? I guess thoughts.
Yeah, we're going to finish off the foundation.
How thoughts affect your health.
We're going to finish off this foundation of health by talking about the other determinants, which are thoughts and relationships.
That's a lot to tackle in 20 minutes.
We'll do it.
But
we'll start at
try.
least. All right. Well, peace and love to you all, and thank you so much for joining.
Bye-bye.